On this day in 1799, in Palestine, on the final day of the siege of Jaffa between France and the Ottoman Empire, French commander Napoleon Bonaparte captured the city, and his troops then proceeded to kill more than 2,000 Albanian captives. Bonaparte had sent his messengers to the city's commander to order its surrender. The messengers were captured, tortured, castrated, and their heads impaled on the city walls. In retaliation, Bonaparte allowed his soldiers 2 days of rape and slaughter. On this day in 1876, Alexander Graham Bell was issued a patent by the United States Patent Office for his telephone, and was later accused of stealing the design from Ohio electrical engineer Elisha Gray, who had filed a patent caveat back on February the 14th for a telephone design that used a water transmitter. On this day in 1912, at Antarctica, Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen announced his expedition had reached the South Pole on December 14, 1911, after arriving in Hobart, Australia. His team consisted of 5 members, including himself, 4 sledges and 52 dogs. Their route to the pole would take them along the previously unknown Axel Heiberg Glacier. Amundsen named their South Pole camp Polheim, meaning home on the pole, and would leave a small tent and letter stating their success in case they did not make it back to civilization. On this day in 1918, during World War I, the newly declared independent state of Finland reached a formal peace settlement with Germany. In 1917, Russia was in the throes of an internal revolution and struggling on the battlefield with Germany. A newly elected Finnish parliament announced it was assuming all powers formerly held by Russian Tsar Grand Duke Nicholas II, who had abdicated in March 1917. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, signed on March 3, 1918, stated the Russian troops and naval forces, Red Guard and Russian fleet immediately be cleared of Finland and Finnish ports. On this day in 1936, in Germany, the Treaty of Versailles and the Locarno Pact were broken when Adolf Hitler ordered his troops to march into the Rhineland. The Versailles Treaty was one of the peace treaties ending World War I between Germany and the Allied powers. It was signed on the 28th of June, 1919, exactly 5 years after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Just after dawn on March 7th, 19 German battalions, escorted by aircraft, entered the Rhineland. On this day in 1951, during the Korean War, Operation Ripper began as United Nations troops led by General Matthew Ridgway began an assault against Chinese forces. It was preceded by the largest artillery bombardment of the Korean War. The intention of the operation was to bring United Nations troops to the 38th parallel, which now serves as the military demarcation line between North and South Korea, and to destroy as much as possible the Chinese Communist People's Volunteer Army and the North Korean military around the city of Seoul. On this day in 1965, in the United States, in Selma, Alabama, the sheriff and a sheriff's posse violently broke up a march by civil rights demonstrators attempting to march from Selma to Montgomery. Sheriff Jim Clark had ordered all white males over the age of 21 to report to the courthouse that morning to be deputized. Horrifying images of marchers bloodied and severely injured on television would rouse support for the U.S. civil rights movement. The incident would become known as Bloody Sunday. On this day in 1986, divers from the rescue and salvage ship USS Preserver located and identified the crew cabin of the Space Shuttle Challenger on the ocean floor. The Challenger had broken up 73 seconds into its flight back on January 28th. A large percentage of the Challenger is still missing. 11 years after the incident, 2 large pieces of the shuttle washed up onto Cocoa Beach, Florida. It is against the law to be in possession of Challenger debris. Any discovered pieces must be turned into NASA. On this day in 1999, in Hollywood news, American filmmaker Stanley Kubrick died in his sleep from a heart attack at his home in Hertfordshire, England, at age 70. He would do most of his work in the United Kingdom, producing such classics as Spartacus, Dr. Strangelove, 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Shining, A Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, and Full Metal Jacket, to name a few, many breaking new ground in cinematography. He was noted for being a perfectionist, working closely with his actors and taking painstaking care with scene staging. Directors such as Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, Woody Allen, and James Cameron would name Kubrick as a great influence on their filmmaking.